Welcome everybody from right across the European Union and indeed the globe to today's webinar on creative connection during COVID-19. My name is Owen Nash and I'll be moderating today's session. Just to let people know from the very beginning that this webinar will be recorded and it will be published, that participants will be muted throughout. And for questions, please write your questions into the Q&A box. We will then gather them throughout the process and we will be able to use them for discussion at the end of the presentations. Also, subtitles and real-time captioning is available, and you should be able to click on the subtitles icon at the end of your screen and turn those subtitles and real-time captioning on. Today's webinar is also available in French, and if you click on the global icon at the end of your screen, you'll also be able to hear that today's webinar in French. We're going out live also, as well as Zoom here. We're going out live on Facebook and join forces with the EASPD, and we hope that you enjoy and benefit from today's webinar. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll be going through a range of speakers from right across the European Union. So my name is Owen Nash, as I said earlier. I'm the chairperson of the EASPD, Interest Group on Arts and Culture, and I'm manager of Arts and Creative Arts Therapies at the Cope Foundation in Cork, Ireland. Cope Foundation is a service provider for over 2,300 children and adults with intellectual disabilities and autism. The EASPD is a European umbrella organisation representing over 17,000 disability organisations right across the EU. And with EASPD, we have an interest group. We've established an interest group on arts and culture. And our key priorities there are to implement, monitor and develop awareness of Article 30 on the UN Convention of Rights for Persons with Disabilities. We share information and good practice right across our partnerships in the area of inclusion and arts. We develop new European-wide projects and we look to secure funding for them. And we provide inputs to relevant policy that the EASPD is working on. We also have a range of creative outputs, including an inclusive choir, photographic exhibitions, and a song festival. We work right across the arts disciplines, arts and culture, from music, dance, theatre. We're involved in film, and also we're involved in Erasmus Plus projects and indeed Creative Europe projects. Some of the questions that we've been kind of considering while preparing for this webinar are, how do we remain creative and connected during this COVID-19 period? How do we amplify the work of disabled artists and honour the creativity of what are often marginalised voices? How do we maintain our community partnerships and our programmes and ensure disability rights are upheld in the creative and cultural sector? How will service providers adapt their services to ensure cultural participation in line with Article 30 of the UN Convention of Rights for Persons with Disability is upheld? And what will the creative compositions and artistic responses during this COVID-19 period tell future generations about how our European community responded, behaved, and acted during this time? Before I move to our first speaker today, I'd just like to share a small video that has been prepared by my team at the Cope Foundation to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing.
Hi, my name is Matthew Murphy. I'm a resident filmmaker of Shisha Arts Cope Foundation, Cork, Ireland. Since COVID-19 has impacted our services, we've been looking at ways to continue creative work and cultural participation. This is our right.
Hi, I'm Owen. Our team at Cope Foundation have been working to deliver
on Article 30 of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities for many years to ensure cultural participation is accessible and available to all.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. We are using our online platforms with many of our partners to maintain and support people to continue on their creative journeys, professionally, educationally, and as amateurs.
Hi, I'm Paul. We have also been setting arts challenges every week for the people who access our services and their families. We bring together and share creative submissions online.
I'm Amy. I'm using this time to develop my own skills as an artist and illustrator. Here is some of my work.
My name is Larry Nolan. I work with Sushi Inclusive Arts in Co-Foundation, and I am a visual artist. I do advocacy and I do advocate for people with different abilities. My passion is I love painting and I love drawing and I love designing dollhouses.
Whilst online supports to ensure cultural participation are really important to us at the moment and will be in the future, so is continuing our face-to-face creative sessions in a physically distant and safe way. Let's make sure cultural participation and Article 30 on the UN Convention of Rights for Persons with a Disability does not get lost at this time. It's too important. Thank you very much for allowing me to share that with you and the work of our team. And 50% of our team are made up of artists with disabilities. I'm now going to move straight along to our first speaker today, which is Alexia Chamodraka, coming from the Open Door Centre in Greece. So I'll hand over to you now, Alexia.
Thank you, Owen. Hi, everyone. Let me just share my screen. So my name is Alexia Hamodraka, as Owen said, and today I will speak to you as the coordinator of the Stay at Home and Have Fun program that we have been implementing since the beginning of the lockdown. First, I will briefly describe our organization for you. Cerebral Palsy Greece was founded in 1972 in response to a pressing need for the care of people with cerebral palsy in Greece. Today, at the Open Door Center of Education and Rehabilitation, we provide our services to over 240 children, young people, and adults from 4 to 60 years old on a daily basis. So, art is part of pretty much everything we do. And one of our most important initiatives in the cultural and artistic field has been the foundation and operation of the Art Club for children and adults with and without disabilities. This is our theater group. I don't know if you can see who the man in the middle is. It's Daniel Day-Lewis. He's a lifelong friend of ours. We really value his friendship. So on March 11th, the Greek government decided to close all schools and educational centers as a preventive measure against the COVID-19 pandemic. So our main concern during the lockdown from the very beginning, from day one, was how to involve our children and adults in educational, recreational, and of course, artistic activities in order to make the time they spend at home more pleasurable, and give them the opportunity to express themselves in creative and artistic ways, and of course, prevent their social isolation by encouraging participation through art and culture. So we set up a program called Stay Home and Have Fun that allows us to preserve frequent and interactive contact with almost all of them by sending them via email a number of ideas and activities. And I will explain in a second why we chose the email solution. Members of our staff have been working from home in order to collect the suitable material that could effectively respond to the needs of each child and adult. And this material involves, among others, suggestions for reading and writing, cooking, gardening, but also when it comes to art, handicrafts, painting, theater and dance performances, music, movies, virtual tours to museums and exhibitions, and much more. So why emails? Setting up online platforms would take us a lot of time, and we wanted to reduce the time of their isolation as much as possible. Most of our children and adults have severe physical disabilities, so they are not able to use technology by themselves. We totally needed the parents to engage our clients in this project, and more than half of them are older people with very poor relationship with technology. 90% though did have email addresses, so this seemed to be the easier and quicker way to reach almost everyone. And it worked. As soon feedback started coming in, it keeps growing as time goes by. Of course, we're still exploring additional ways of interacting creatively with our clients, but we learned that times of crisis really require some flexibility, and that old-fashioned ways sometimes are not so bad after all. So now we'll present to you very few examples of the material we have been sending to our children, adults, and their families, just for you to get an idea of how this can work via emails. So the first category involves handicrafts, things they could do either by themselves or with members of their family with the help of videos, or with the help of pictures, and of course explanations and descriptions of the activity alongside. Another category is painting, where again we use videos for meeting famous artists. But we are also sending paintings like this one of Marc Chagall, followed by questions for them to think about and answer in their own time and pace. We organize also virtual tours and exchange our impressions afterwards, as the quarantine was a great opportunity for us to travel all around the world by visiting museums, by exploring famous gardens, and even by traveling back in time to experience how the Parthenon was built. This is a digital creation. Of course, we have watched many theater and dance performances. And movies, this is an example of movies that raise similar questions and trigger interesting conversation afterwards with them. Movies about love and in all its forms. And of course, music with the help of videos always, but we're also sending ideas of how they can create their own songs, as you can see with the help of colors and of course the computer keyboard. And also ideas of how they can perform songs with the help of symbols. Now, Easter was going to be very different this year in Greece, as it is a big part of our culture and tradition, and art was the only way for all of us to experience it as deeply as possible. So for 1 week, the one leading to Easter Sunday, our material was dedicated to the works of great artists. So here are just a couple of examples. And of course, some Easter movies and music, handicrafts and recipes. These are a couple of pictures that we received from our families. And some nice words that parents have been sending us. We translated them for you so that you can get the feeling, hopefully. This brings us almost to the end, but now I'm going to show you a short video that we made especially for you and for this webinar. We have a residential home for 8 adults with cerebral palsy, and we asked them to share their experiences regarding the artistic material in particular that they have been receiving all this time. So I hope you enjoy it.
Can you check your audio, Alexia?
Sorry?
Can you check your audio?
I can hear the video. You can't hear the video?
I can't hear it at the moment, so if you could just see.
Okay. I can hear it. I don't know what else I can do. Maybe I will play to you in another way. Wait.
Unshare your screen.
Sorry? Should I play it in another way? I had it in another file as well.
Stop sharing your screen and start again.
Oh, okay, okay.
And pick the computer audio. It should be working.
Which is where? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
At the bottom, an option, share with computer audio. Can you see it?
No, sorry.
When you share your screen, if you click on the button, share screen.
Yes?
Then do you see the button at the bottom?
Sorry, I don't. It's okay.
You want to
can't.
maybe just try and play it once?
Share computer sound. Sorry, I saw it. Okay. Okay. Let's try it again. Sorry for that.
Στο σπίτι μας η μέρα ξεκινάει με μουσική.
Η πανδημία του κορονοϊού μπορεί να μας έχει αφήσει μακριά από την πόρτα ανοιχτή, αλλά όχι και από αυτά που αγαπάμε.
Το προσωπικό της πόρτας ανοιχτής φρόντιζε να μας στέλνει συχνά διάφορες ιδέες για να απασχοληθούμε και να μην ξεχάσουμε πόσο σημαντική είναι η τέχνη στη ζωή όλων μας.
Έχουμε ζωγραφίσει τα δικά μας έργα.
Το μυαλό μας ταξιδεύει μέσα από ταινίες και βίντεο.
Θεατρικές και χοροπτικές παραστάσεις.
Συναυλίες. Βρισκόμαστε στο Βυζαντινό και Χριστιανικό Μουσείο της Αθήνας και παρακολουθούμε μία περιήγηση στους θησαυρούς.
Έχουμε μελετήσει πίνακες.
Και έτσι περνάμε το χρόνο μας ευχάριστα και δεν χάνουμε ποτέ το κουράγιο.
Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Alexia. And I'm not sure if we can stop sharing that screen now. And
Yes,
we're going to move on straight away. And if you've seen the program for today, you'll know that we have representation from service providers, artists, and also cultural and arts organizations. So now we're going to move on to Rita Parata from the CIM Dance Company in Portugal. Over to you, Rita.
Okay, thank you everyone. Just to present myself, and I want to thank also this, it is a very important invitation to be able to share and to listen, this opportunity to be somehow connected through the world and share our difficulties and also share some of the solutions we found to continue our work. So I'm a dancer, choreographer, and Sim Dance Company is a based dance contemporary company in Lisbon. And mainly it does mainly works with performances. So we perform during the year and we tour with the performances nationally and internationally. And we also have a program of teaching and delivering the dance inclusion technique and also danceability method. So, and we work with the various spectrum of ages and from children to elder. Our two main partnerships are the Association of Cerebral Palsy in Lisbon and the Center of Rehabilitation of Cerebral Palsy, also in Lisbon, connected to the foundation of Carlos Gulbenkian. So these two partners were actually our spaces of rehearsal and teaching. And both of them, they closed in March, and one of them even became the gym where we actually performed, we actually rehearsed, became hospital campaign for the pandemic situation. So we kind of not only got out with everything stopped on the 10th of March, but we also, in the future, we are facing some, still some questions about how to get back to our physical spaces with our partners locally. But I want to share with you just a video, like a trailer or a promo video of the company, just to let you see what we used to be doing, if I can say like this. Sorry.
Just make sure we can share your screen, Anna Rita, as well. So.
Yes, yes, sorry, I just didn't click the right button. So,
thank you.
Okay, I hope sound is okay. Yes, I think so. Yeah, hopefully. Okay, so this is mainly a video that shows some of our performances. So it's a company based with professional dancers with and without disability. We are about 16, the quorum are 16. You could say more or less half with and without disabilities. But we also have a student program to integrate the company. So it's it's called the Educative Project for the Arts, where we included this year 7 students through an audition, and they were in the midst of their studies while all this happened. So on the 10th of March, rapidly, we thought, we were like, we didn't know what, actually we took us a time to digest what we had to do, how could we do it, and how could we connect. Of course, we had emails, we could call people. Some of our people could have used technology autonomous, others not, but we could get through technology connected, but that was not enough. So we rapidly had to keep the routine going because we had a very strong routine. At least 3 times a week we were together for at least rehearsals of 3 hours. So our main concern was to keep the creation going and the process of learning and exchanging going. So we rapidly started sessions on Zoom, and then was to learn how to do it attractively on Zoom, because out of the boom, after 3 weeks, everything closed. Everybody was teaching on Zoom. You could have access to anything on Zoom. You could have access to yoga, you can have access to meditation, you could have access to everything. So people were busy in a way. So, but we wanted to keep some connections still through our work. So we kept the children's group going.
One minute, Rita.
Yeah, sorry.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Just remaining, okay? Continue. I'm just saying 1 minute remaining. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. So then we kept the elder going. We kept the everything somehow going, and and we creatively got everything somehow back connected with some Zoom, Easter, and Facebook live sessions for everyone, for every ages. And now we were backing again to our main, also one of our main concerns is going back to the institutions, because slowly institutions are opening, so they're getting back their students, they're getting back their clients. So we are also offering sessions of dance and inclusive dance to them. So if I have still maybe 30 seconds, I would like to show you some, just again, a last video that has this last example of how it looked like the Zoom sessions, and I will share again. Okay, not to take time from the other speakers, it's just some images of what's going on, of course. And yes, I want to thank also Bruno Rodriguez, who's doing with me this co-directing the company, and has been very helpful to get going with all this. So I'm later on ready for other questions.
Thank you very much, Anna Rita. And it's lovely to see such fantastic movement happening in kitchens and sitting rooms all over the European Union. So, but I suppose nothing compares to being able to work together in a similar space. And I think it's interesting what you said about those rehearsal spaces and the importance of rehearsal spaces for developing new contemporary ideas and new creative ideas. But for sure, it's lovely to see people dancing from their homes. I'm now going to move directly on to our next panelist, which is Krista Welsh, and she's speaking to you from a service provider organization based in Hungary. So if you would like to take the floor now, Krista.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon. I am Krista Welsh from the Foundation for the Disabled, located in Százhalombatta, Hungary, very close to the capital city of the country. It's an honor to be here today and to get invited. And we are really happy to have the opportunity to introduce ourselves to you. So now let me share the presentation. Okay. Yes. First of all, I will briefly talk about our foundation, then we'll move on to the Cloudwalkers Motion Theatre, and finally, I will share our learnings of the past 8 weeks during the pandemic. So to begin with, we are a member of the National Association of Organizations and Foundations for People with Mental Disabilities in Hungary. It's called ETA, and who I would like to thank for making it possible for us to be here today. Our foundation operates in a daycare system, and as you can see in the pictures, and we're looking after and giving employment for adult people with several levels of mental and intellectual disabilities. And now the Cloudwalkers Motion Theatre Drama Group, which is a piece of diamond within the foundation. 2 dedicated drama pedagogues, Steffi and Evi, who actually are sitting just behind me in this room. You can't see them right now, but you will in the Q&A session. So they facilitate drama workshops on a daily basis in order to enable the Cloudwalkers to get on stage all year through on festivals and cultural events across Hungary and Europe. Our mission is to make the major society more sensitive and inclusive for mental and intellectual diversity, as well as to support the Cloudwalkers in their integration by psychodrama activities. I can proudly say that our plays are unique. Unique because the Cloudwalkers play mainly with movements expressing very deep feelings. Unique because what they show on stage is founded prudently at drama workshops where they don't only improve skills like coordination or concentration, but also a lot of time is devoted to their thoughts and on their life experiences. Therefore, they really understand and feel what they perform about. So the emotions and motions are perfectly true and genuine. When it became known that due to the pandemic, we would have to physically close down, we were devastated. We faced a situation lacking the everyday in-person interactions, cancelled performances, no workshops. And it seemed that we have very dark clouds to walk on for an uncertain length of time. However, in less than a week, we managed to set up the new system. We started meeting on Zoom and realized that it was feasible to conduct drama workshops virtually. After the first week of quarantine, the whole crew of the Cloudwalkers were on Zoom every single workday. And here we spent long time on identifying, dealing with their feelings such as fear, isolation, depression, and the instability from lacking their safe daily routine. We went very, very deep, excavating feelings even from childhood memories, going back. And we practiced a lot of improv theatre activities, such as association games, role plays. You can see all that when we are doing that. And because feelings has always been in focus, but now when behind the screen, mimics and looks are much, much more highlighted than normally, our exercises also focused on these. So say, for instance, naming a state of feeling like loneliness, outcastness, or hopefulness. And then we had to express that on screen. So let's try and read what feelings the other one is reflecting with their mimics and eyes. And that was a lot of practice and improvement. And you can see how they are actually doing it. It's here on these pieces of screenshots. Okay, and so we stayed together and we learned a lot too. These workshops are the secure and fixed parts of their days, the time they wait and prepare for every day. As there is no pressure of getting ready for the upcoming performances, we had the chance to devote more time for self-awareness, which will be great ammunition for the future drama topics too. And thanks to the online improv exercises, these feelings will be genuinely and credibly expressed. And as a side effect of the past 8 weeks, we'll have improved our digital skills too. So in the future, we can always get back to this and use it even when for any reason meeting each other physically is not feasible. So still, to be honest, they cannot wait to be together again in person. They long for physical closeness, and touches, hugs, holding hands cannot be replaced by anything. So thank you for your attention. And finally, let me share a short video of the cloud walkers so you can really see how they are. And let me. Okay, so thank you very much, and we are looking forward to all your questions. And the two drama pedagogues are also sitting here, so they will be also in my assistance to answer your questions. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Krista, for that presentation. And I think the closing image kind of has, I must say, has really moved me in terms of that kind of reflection of intimacy and togetherness that's probably lost for so many people throughout this, that human-to-human connection. I'm sure that we all feel at some level, our different levels, and that sense of intimacy and together from person to person. So the image has certainly moved me, and I'm sure it, like the arts do, move us internally as we respond to that. So I'm going to move on to our final panelist today, and that is Dr. Simon McKeown, who's an internationally renowned artist and is also a senior member of staff at the Teesside University in the United Kingdom. So you're very welcome, Simon, and I'll hand over to you now. You're on mute, Simon. You're on mute.
There we go.
There you go.
There we go. Hi, afternoon, everybody. Owen, thank you so much for inviting me to meet the panelists and to do the presentation. I'd like just to quickly share my screen and go through a PowerPoint with you. Yes, so my name is Dr. Sammy McKeown. I'm a member of the Middlebury Institute for Modern Art, which is based in the northeast of the UK. It's part of Teesside University, which is a big university in the UK, and it's known for its skills in digital teaching. So it's very well known internationally for teaching animation. We have a big background in public art in Middlesbrough. So this is a piece of work near the Mima Gallery by Klaus Oldenburg. And we, not too long ago, commissioned Anish Kapoor to create this huge work in the old industrial setting in the harbour near Middlesbrough. I'm an artist and a trustee, so I'm a trustee of a small charity where we encourage artists to take spaces and so on. And that's been quite difficult for us because we've been closed or had to partially close during the COVID experience. We've only recently just opened again. And of course, as a charity, that's affecting our income, it's affecting our ability to manage, and we have to manage the health of our members. So I'm a disabled fine artist, basically. But I have worked commercially in computer games and special effects. And I'm known for working collaboratively with disabled artists. And I'm particularly interested in using my skills on a big scale to take people on a journey with me. So I'm really interested in disabled artists working with me and taking over city centres so that we reclaim the spaces that are normally disabled people and disabled people's organisations are excluded from. So I'd like to highlight this particular project, which Owen is very familiar with, where I took over the city centre of Cork in Ireland for a very big event. Over 10,000 people were there. And we showcased a collaborative work that was digitally produced to the highest level of a very international standing. But central to the core of it was this group of disabled people with learning difficulties, physical difficulties and so on, all meshed together, deafness, all meshed together to create an outstanding piece of work. And I really like that idea that we're taking over and reclaiming space. So we reclaimed space in Culture Night. In Ireland, we took over the cultural space as well from normal institutions, if that makes sense. So the normative galleries, the normal structures, we took over and dominated, and that meant that we were able to present an event that was entirely accessible and done in quite a different way as a result. But this didn't come from nowhere. This came from my earlier work in motion capture and special effects, where I've worked with disabled motion to capture the movement of people, which is very unique digitally. And the image on the right showcases, again, movement, but it showcases the history of World War I, which led to 15 million people being disabled throughout Europe mainly. And it's one of the first commemorations of that enormous kind of period, and it challenges the stereotype of war being either about dead people or heroes. There was a huge space there for disability. So I'm very involved in disability. So I'm a member. I was a trustee of the Brittle Bone Society, and one of my impairments is brittle bones. So I've broken a lot of bones over my lifetime. In the UK, I think COVID has been a unique challenge for many disabled people. Quite simply, the government have sidelined disabled people in an extraordinary manner, and many people have died, many older people have died as a result, and the care and attention shown to disabled people in the UK has been quite shocking. And the death rate reported by the BBC may be as high as 50,000, not the 30,000 that is currently reported. Liz Carr, who is one of the UK's most famous actresses, she's a comedian, reports that she's terrified. And so many people, many disabled people in the UK are living in really fairly, in situations in which they're worried and scared for their life and scared for their ability to work. So it's really difficult to turn this on its head and become creative. But I think it's so important that we turn that fear into something really positive and something that's really a fantastic cultural response. And that started, what we've got is already artists are saying there's no going back to normal. What is the new normal going to be for disabled artists in the future? It can't just go back, not when, certainly in Britain, where the government has literally, ignored the situation of disabled people. Unlimited, which is perhaps the most famous response in the UK to disability art and artists with disabilities, have responded with micro commissions. So artists who've previously worked with Unlimited have been able to apply for €1,000 to undertake work, to do some research, to maintain their practice. But what else can we do? What can we use art as an act of rebellion for? And I think it's really important that in times of austerity, which may follow COVID, in the post-COVID situation, we disabled people's organisations may be under attack again, and disabled people will be under attack in terms of benefits and existence. Digital resilience is one of the things that we can actually ensure now for no cost or very little cost. So I just want to talk, I wanted to just briefly mention some quick solutions. So I avoid, as a digital artist, I use an enormous amount of equipment, but I avoid Apple as much as I can because they're so expensive. And I use software that is pretty much free. And so here's an example of a Photoshop alternative, which I would use professionally, called GIMP. The resources for digital images, which are absolutely fantastic and can be shared and used professionally. One of my favourite tools, and obviously this is quite complicated, but is a super professional package called Blender, which artists can use, and it's equivalent. You've got major games companies and major film companies now using this package, and yet it's entirely free. There's free 3D resources to enable artists to do 3D work, which you can then connect to 3D printers, which can be quite inexpensive to use. I absolutely love animation. Of course, stop frame animation on a tablet is very, very inexpensive to do, especially if you're using an Android tablet. And one of the most important editing systems used professionally is called DaVinci Resolve, and that's entirely free, apart from a small element of it, for users. And it's a package that I use. And so the things that I'm kind of going through here, I use professionally, but don't cost. And I do like the idea that there are lots of people who are interested in computers. Computers are very expensive, but Raspberry Pi is very inexpensive. If you're interested in electronics, there's electronics for children and young people. And electronics is a really interesting way to entertain and bring people together, to bring families together. But it's really inexpensive as well. And it's very difficult to break. And there's loads and loads of support material. I'm very keen that we present our work well and that we're able to go out into the public. And nowadays, it's very easy to do very inexpensive but very professional websites. A lot of the websites I advise people on are done for less than €100. And of course, most of the information I'm getting to do this, which I teach my students as well about, for digital resilience, a lot of the information comes from YouTube, where there's significant resources in all of this technology. So I think we can be technically aware as well, technically innovative, and don't spend a lot of money. So Artland is a fantastic way to document exhibitions, but also to present them. And so at the studio that I mentioned earlier, we document each exhibition for very little money and present them in 3 dimensions to allow people to access them at a different time. So technology shouldn't be something that we should be scared of. I think COVID and art is, COVID is the pure survival is an act of rebellion within the COVID period. We've got lots of difficult responses to resuscitation questions in the UK, where disabled people really do feel that their life is under threat should they engage with the National Health Service, with the NHS. And there is a rationing of resources in favour of the majority. The letters have been sent to various people. So I think that we can engage. One of the things that I'm very keen on is that we challenge this. So I'm a member of a government panel in the UK, And I contributed to a parliamentary report recently entitled The Unequal Impact of Coronavirus and the Impact on People with Protective Characteristics. So I'm trying to challenge it at a legal level, the unequal impact that is occurring. I'm involved in a legal challenge to the government as well. And on a more artistic level, I'm part of a small disabled arts collective in the northeast of England. And what we've done there is when the lockdown occurred, we challenged the Arts Council of England, who rapidly responded to support the big national organisations, but in the process completely ignored all disabled organisations and disabled people, nearly. And we challenged that. We were the only organisation in the UK to challenge the policy of Arts Council England, and that led within a week to them altering their plans, and that led to a plan that led to them altering their plan of action to include disabled people. And that was a really important thing that we did, and we were quite nervous about doing it because it's quite a difficult thing to criticise the funding mechanisms and the policy decision makers and so on. To end, I think there should be some post-COVID-19 inquiries, certainly in the UK, as to how disabled people have been treated. But what we must not become, and what I'm absolutely worried about in the future, is that this is a great opportunity for life to be developed away from disabled people. Many disabled people will not be able to instantly return back to normal life. They may be in the high risk category. They may be unable to join back into that normal society. And as a result, disabled people and disabled people's organisations are at risk of becoming further marginalised, especially in terms of austerity. So I think now is the time to be fighting every kind of prejudice and actually saying to the cultural institutions, we are not add-ons. We are not an add-on to your normative narrative. We have our own culture, and we should be showcased and shown as equal partners. We should not be forgotten. And that would be the end of my presentation. I hope that's useful.
Thank you very much, Simon. That's much appreciated. And I'm not sure if you can stop sharing your screen there as well as possible. I think it's really interesting what you've been doing in terms of that policy level as well. We are having, you know, the current disability strategy at a European level is being developed at the moment, and there's been no mention of arts in the previous. Cultural participation has been mentioned, but the arts specifically haven't. And while the new this European disability strategy is being developed at the moment, it's essential that the voice of the disabled artist is embedded within that policy. But equally, from a cultural perspective, we need to ensure that disabled artists, organisations representing persons with disabilities and their work are heard in the cultural sector, and that advocacy is and rights, and the UN Convention of Rights, Article 30 in particular, is upheld by those significant and large organisations. Two quick questions that came through, because I know we're tight on time. Just to say that one of the questions that came through was, will the PowerPoints and the information be shared? Yes, it will, and the recording will be published, so that is for you. Very quickly, there's one here, where can I find more information? If you go to EASPD.eu, you will be able to get more information on the working of the interest group on arts and culture. Another question that has come up here is for Anna Rita or Krista, and maybe Anna Rita, if you could take this, please. You're doing online work. So with your online work, who is the technology that's being used? Is the technology being used the individual's own technology, like their phone? Is it iPads? Is it family stuff? Are organizations providing this type of technical support to people in their homes? What's your, in 10 seconds, what's your response?
10 seconds. Okay, 10 seconds. Own technology with parents helping. And when we are giving to, there has been some institutions also joining in and using their own technology, probably on TV screens, connecting. So people are using their own technology, high phones with good quality, bad quality, it doesn't matter. So they join us with their own technologies available at home.
Okay.
Yeah, that's mainly what's happening at the moment.
And look, I mean, in saying that, we are aware that lots of people might find it difficult to access the appropriate type of technology that they require. And we need to be, I suppose, support organizations need to be aware of that and see how they can support. I think Simon has given us a very good overview as well of open source and relatively cheap technology that can be accessed. So when you look back on the conference, one other question that's come through is, it's EASPD specific. The interest groups, could we spread those out and have them at different times so that people can attend different interest groups? I have another question here, and I might put this to you, Simon. This is about copyright, and if anybody else wants to take that, the copyright of material. So the question, if I'm understanding it correctly, is, was there any problems with copyright of material used, and how do organizations manage out, or what guidance is there to work with copyright issues where people are producing their own work or collaborative work?
So for instance, if you were a musician doing short pieces of music, or you were a dance company and you needed short pieces of music inexpensively, or you were doing a piece at home, I would look at, for instance, a website called Pond5, and Pond5 would allow you, pond5.com allows a download of a great deal of tracks that are really quite inexpensive, but when you buy them, you also buy the copyright to use that track for your use.
Can you type that website into the Q&A so people know where to go for that?
And so basically, lots of the professional websites out there now that support artists, and artists I do mean broadly, you know, theatre, dance, visual artists and so on, that you're able to buy assets for, you know, €5, €10, €15 that you can use in your particular project. And so the actual cost of things the quality of the work can be very professional, but it can actually be very, very low cost.
Thank you very much. I think we've covered most of the questions, and really we are very tight on time now. So I just, regarding the considerations around policy and all the rest of it, I'm now going to hand over to the president of the EASPD just to give some wrap-up thoughts and maybe some policy issues that we need to consider going forward as a group of artists, as a group of support organizations that support artists with disabilities, and as co-creators, as well as arts organizations. So Jim Crow, over to you.
Good afternoon, Owen, and good afternoon, dear colleagues taking part in this webinar. What have I learned? I've learned three things, I think, from listening and watching in this webinar. Perhaps I should have known, but if I didn't, I do now, how advanced the digital media and IT skills are of so many of our colleagues working in this field. Really, really, really very impressive. And I think there's still a lot of sharing that could be done about those skills and tips and hints, and we've seen some of that with Owen's skillful moderation a couple of minutes ago. There's some of the ideas that Simon, for instance, was sharing about software packages and applications. The second is the extent to which the creative arts can stir our emotions, even through a virtual way like this. So I've been really very taken with what I've heard and seen. And finally, just the creativity that so many people can can do if they're given some opportunities. In terms of our presentations, one of the participants from Open Door in Greece, I loved their phrase. They talked about having the opportunity so that our mind can travel. I just thought that was a lovely image, and one that I will hold for a long time. I loved the dancers in their homes in Portugal, uninhibited, taking part and enjoying it clearly. I loved in Hungary the title of the organization, the Cloud Walkers. I think that's, again, a lovely image, and one that I think I will ponder on for a long time. And then also in Hungary, looking at some of the positives that have come out for the organization and for the individuals in terms of this terrible crisis. Often it's so easy to be depressed, and Krista gave us a different perspective, which I think was important. So those are the three things I've learned, and those a little reflection on the presentations. I do have a couple of notices to share with you before we conclude. First of all, that you know that this is a weekly webinar series that we've been running to assist members and partners across Europe, but also further beyond. Our next one is May the 27th next week, and that is on another important topic: how do we ensure access to education as so many of our children and young people are returning to school with their teachers and lecturers? How do we ensure that that happens safely and in a constructive way for people? Please do make use of our Facebook page we have called Joining Forces. It's a great opportunity to share ideas and tips, and is extremely well used by our friends and partners globally. We do have a help desk for our members if you have particular issues that you have to confront. And then last but not least, the serious issue of policies and funding. It's been a pleasure talking about creativity and how we can tap into individuals' talents, but some of that needs proper support and assistance from the states that we live in, and sometimes it needs some funding. So I know Owen and other colleagues in the EASPD have been working on a press release today concerning the attitude of state bodies and regional authorities towards the arts and people with disabilities and disabled people's organisations. I would encourage you to look at that. I'm sure it'll be out if it's not already out, I'm sure it'll be on the EASPD website very soon. And there is also coming up on June the 3rd a very important webinar hosted by the European Commission, June the 3rd. That's between 10 a.m. and 12 a.m. Central European time. And that's going to be providing a help desk for organizations who are looking for funding to discuss one potential source of European Commission funding, which is called the EU Coronavirus Response Investment Initiative. So EASPD members will have hopefully already today received information about that webinar and whether it could unlock some funding for some of the things that you could do. And certainly at a policy level at EASPD, we're continuing to push some of the issues that Simon has referred to in his last presentation. I would certainly endorse everything that he said about the UK government. I live in Wales, and I think there are huge issues arising for the way that this government has handled the coronavirus epidemic and pandemic. But thankfully, other countries, other member states of the European Union have worked in a far more effective way. But there is a political action that we need to take. Certainly many of our organizations are still not being funded to do day-to-day work with disabled people, whether that's around the creative arts or other fields. And rest assured, EASPD will be continuing to do that. I think I ought to just hand back now to Owen. Thank you, Owen, and to all of our participants and panelists. And I hope that those who've attended as delegates to this webinar found it useful. Thank you, Owen.
Thank you very much, Jim. And I suppose my parting message to disability service providers, many of whom are part of the audience today, is that arts and creativity should not be considered as a kind of add-on. They're central. When you consider things that are serious topics for your organizations like early intervention, education, employment, you will know that the arts are central to all of those. We sing songs to children, we use painting to work with people in rehabilitation centres, we use creativity in the arts to support that. In education, creativity and arts are central to all of it, but still we continue to not support the importance of that and hold it figural amongst the other topics that are considered. And again, employment, the employment of artists with disabilities is really important for those within our community and to be kept. But equally, the message to the cultural sectors is that there is still so much work to be done in the inclusion of persons with disabilities within your settings. Many cultural centres may feel they're doing fantastic work and reaching out, but you need to have artists with disabilities on your boards as advocates within your centres to ensure what you're doing is inclusive and it includes the voice of artists with disabilities. And we would call on you to ensure that you consider that and not let Article 30, that we uphold Article 30 of the UN Convention, and that we all make an effort together throughout this time and beyond this time to ensure that we are an inclusive, diverse community. Thank you very much. I'm going to finish on that thought. Thank you to our speakers, our audience, and to our background technical team who have supported us. And we look forward to hosting more of these webinars in the future. Thank you all.